Hey gang, welcome back to Joe Daddy's Garage. Today's video is part 5 in the Crunchy Cobra Jet series, and I hope to have that name change as I make more progress. So in a previous video, you saw where I cut the core support off of the original car, and then I did a test fit onto the frame rails and aprons and all that up front here. I'm going to show you some more of that in just a minute. The next step in my thought process as to how I'm doing this is going to be removing the shock towers from the Cobra Jet and also the shock towers from the new frame rails. So what I want to do before I do any of that is do some test fitting. I stress this all the time. You need to test fit your pieces and parts to make sure everything's going to line up. I recently talked with somebody who was stressing over a dimension one way or the other, and we actually did some measurements and found that there were variables between cars. None of them had the exact same measurement, and that kind of makes my point. I'm more concerned with the way the fender and the hood and the doors fit against each other than I am the original measurements that are underneath the car. A lot of that can be changed. A lot of this stuff is aftermarket and you can't trust those measurements anyway, but you want to get as close as you can and test fit those pieces to make sure they fit right. So let me show you what I have tested on the new build and we'll go from there. So before I dig into disassembling this front suspension and everything, I just wanted to show you I had a little change in plans. I wasn't sure if there was enough room for this to fit in front of the car itself. I took it off of the jack stands, or off my jacks, pulled on it gently. The thing rolled out beautiful, no conflict at all. I did do a little more test fitting, by the way. I bolted in the export brace, so it's bolted to the shock towers, and I also decided to set the hood on just to see how close everything is. The gaps are good. It's a little bit out of adjustment. The fender can move back there and on this side as well, so I'm very happy with how all this fits. I'm not going to lift the hood because it might slide to the back, but with the export brace bolted in, everything measures out really nice and I'm very happy with it. What I had thought about doing initially was taking everything out, back off of this, and then lowering the car so that I could work above this. But at this point, I'm going to leave it alone and just focus on getting that apart. So that'll be the next segment, and we'll see how far along I can get on this. All right, what I want to try to do now is eliminate some of these pieces that are in my way. I know that I'm not going to be using this apron. I've got to get this cover off. I still want to try to save this apron. This piece up here, this filler piece, is no good. I do have this new or OEM piece, so I'll be using that. And basically I want to try to eliminate everything that's in the way, get the suspension out. I'm going to try to use these little spring compressors. I had another set somewhere and I can't find them at the moment, so I'm just going to have to start eliminating pieces as I go. So we'll see how this goes. It's kind of what I was afraid of. So we'll step that up a little bit. Let's see what I have available here. Now, if I have to cut stuff off, I will. A lot of this, if it's rusted too bad, isn't worth saving in the first place. We'll see how some air helps. Okay. You know, you can notice here, this angles, like these three holes here are closer together than these three, so this only fits the driver's side. Just as a reference. Now, got a variety of things to get loose up here. I know that I've applied fluid before. See how this, I've not used these. Somebody gave these to me, but if I can make them work, I will. You know, I might be able to come down below that. Oh, see, somebody, like I said, somebody else gave me these, and I just realized they put a spacer on here to try to take up some of that thread gap. I know that's not the right size, but I don't think, yeah. Oh, I do have it, 15/16. Cool. Maybe not so good. Just trying to get some tension on that. See if we can't get some of the other stuff loose. I was afraid of that. They're kind of, this one worked. This one like rounded off. Thing is, there's nothing there. There we go. Okay. Well, that's not useful anyway. We know that's pretty well scrapped. So that's a good sign. Take that back. Now, back to this. Okay, can't believe that. That attached. I'm gonna get up in there on that other one. There we go. Okay. Woo! Yay! Gosh. Woo! Now to take that apart. I think it was 1 inch would probably be enough. Step up to the big guy. Okay. Whew. No, that's not stressful at all. Here's the thing. You know, anything that has potential energy, treat it with as much respect as you can. Because if it were to suddenly release all of its energy, you can be in big trouble. But these seem to do the job, so I'll use them again. Well, I don't know where my camera disconnected. Sorry about that. Hopefully you saw me getting the coil spring out. I also was surprised that the bolts came loose on the sway bar. I'm not going to set that back in just to show you the removal. The little links, sway bar links. This one on the passenger driver's side snapped off, and the passenger side was okay, or at least it came apart. It's not okay. So I'll have to see where that video left off. What I was telling, if I didn't say it already, I use anytime I take apart like the coil spring, and of course this is a big block coil spring, you know, I use the spring compressors, but when you take something apart like this, treat it like it's the most dangerous thing you have in your shop. So again, I don't know if you saw it, what I did. Once I I actually pried this kind of out, and then I set it on the floor, put that crowbar in it, stood on it, and then took the clamps off. And that way the spring couldn't shoot out anywhere. So sorry if the camera quit. No control over that, and I get no warning. All right, so what I want to do, continuing the disassembly, if I already said this, I'm sorry, but I want to get this strut rod off, get the lower control arm off, the upper control arm. Obviously brake hose is of no value, so I'll probably just cut that off, and then try to take this side off as an assembly. Don't need to separate anything more than I need to. Let's go ahead and cut that now, because I don't need that hose hanging on. For any reason. There you are. Ooh. That thing's all rotted on the inside as well. Not that we could ever use it. It's not something you can replace or rebuild, obviously. What I need to do, what was that noise? I need to try to take all this apart up here to get this strut off. Hopefully it all goes smooth, but you know, we'll find out. I think I might just cut that off. There we go. No, bigger than that. All 3/4. Okay. Okay, good. It's out. Ugh. Whew. Kind of smacked my fingers. Hey, don't get old because your fingers get all knobbly and knuckly and weird looking. And then when you hit it, it really, really, really hurts. Just saying. Just saying. All right, cool. Now I can put all the hardware back in that and continue removing whatever I can. One good bolt. You know, when I took this strut loose, this whole section here, I mean, there's nothing holding this together, really. I say that. There's a little bit holding this together, but not much. Not much at this point. I can wiggle that quite a bit. Okay. Time for some coffee. At this point, I obviously have the front suspension taken out. I think that was a very good idea, in my case, to cut loose the rest of the bracket for the strut rod. And I want to remove the engine mounts, get those out of the way. I'll probably remove what's left of the brake lines and everything, try to keep that intact as much as I can. Pretty sure we're not going to be using that stuff, but it is valuable, so I'll take care of that. Going to remove the hinges, and then what I really think I might try to do, because I want to pull out this shock tower, obviously, I'm going to try to save this rear apron for sure and see if I can't get it out all in one piece. We'll see how that goes. I will point out a few things. You know, back in the day, they took a torch and cut these holes. It looks like they started to do it here on this forward area, and I will rebuild that. I'll make a patch and put in there and make it solid again. So I'll have to do that here as well. The other thing was I had filmed the removal of the coil spring and the sway bar, and I had it all on my GoPro. I don't know how much battery life it took or how far it died, but hopefully you got some information out of that as well. Not much I can do to reset and do it all again, but that's just how it is. The bolts up here, I had to cut two of those loose. This one wouldn't, it was rounded off, and this one, it was spinning inside of the square portion here. This one did come out, so that's not uncommon for that. The bolts otherwise came out for the lower suspension easily, and for the upper control arm, all that came loose, as you can see there. So I'm going to continue to focus on the driver's side here to get as much of this apart as I can, and then of course I will do all that on this side. I probably won't film it so much, but you'll see how that comes apart. Okay, so I have all this apart. I've already shown that in a previous segment. I went ahead and removed the spring and the shock on this side. I will go through the process of pulling off this suspension, but what I wanted to do before we went any further was a test fit. Now, we've heard good things about these export braces and how well they're supposed to fit. So I want to put this on what's left of the bolts that I have on the passenger side. And I have one bolt on the driver's side. So at this point, there's a little bit of room or, effort I'm going to have to put into this to try to get it to sit down in here. Hopefully this all lines up. I don't know, maybe there's some more adjustment over here. Okay, so basically all three of these I can get the bolts in on this side, and this one looks like, yeah, I can get all three in these as well. And we'll see how close this is. Now that's not 100% dead on, but I can get the bolts in. And I can see, I don't know how well I can show you, but there's a gap here. So the way this is shaped, this back section actually has a kind of a hump in it. Is that a big deal? Maybe. It may take some effort to make this fit the way it should. What I see is when they stamp this, these two areas are dipped and also curved because you have a hump here in the middle. So although it fits the towers like it's supposed to, that's a good thing. I'm just not as happy with this. Now, this is up tight against the cowl, and yet these are kind of at weird angles. I wish I could show you better, but that's basically what we have at this point. I don't know how well that shows up on the camera, but there is a gap under here. So anyway, it will fit. It will fit. If I turn that over, maybe you can see that that is not flat overall. It's got that big hump in the middle. And I imagine if I took a straight edge and laid it across this one and this one is kind of more up in that direction. So at least it will fit, and that's what we needed to know for sure before we get too far forward on this. Now, what I want to do is continue removing the suspension. As I said earlier, I don't think my camera, it may have shut off in the mid-process. So I'm gonna take this side off now. I didn't plan to do it that way, but I figured it would be easier to show that. Well, I have quite the mess. As you can see, I have the front aprons there. I have the driver's side shock tower there. Various pieces and parts all over the place. And there is the passenger side shock tower. Now I can tell you from taking this apart, I've swept this floor at least 3 times and ended up with all of this every time that I hit it with a hammer. So it is what it is. This car has a lot of rust in it, and we know that, and that's just what we're dealing with. Now, taking these towers apart, you can see by the GoPro footage and stuff, and what it takes to get these out. So there's welds. These were pretty simple. You can access those from the outside. They have one weld on the inside on both of these. Really no way to get to that unless you come from the outside of the frame rail, or if you were to cut a hole or something and open that up. So that had to be chiseled off with my body tool or body panel tool that I use. So that was the most difficult one in the process. You have these two up on top on the inside of the tower, and then a variety of welds on the outside of this brace. Now you could take the brace off itself if you wanted to, but I'm not using these. I'm using the ones that are on the new frame rails. Along with that, a series of spot welds on the apron to the frame rail. And then on this side, basically there was 5 welds. That's all that held the apron to the firewall, and then of course the top brace. On the passenger side, this side I think they were more happy with welding, because we had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 welds on this side. Not uncommon. I know that different people on different days, or different workers on either side of the vehicle, will do different things. I did want to point out some other stuff. This gap here. You know, a lot of people worry about gaps and distances and measurements, and I point this out. There are times where measurements are critical and times where they're not. In this case, this torque box, there's a pretty good gap between it and the floor pan. Obviously it doesn't help with moisture. There was a ton of tar tacked in here, or stacked in here. I say tar, undercoating, whatever they used. And obviously we know that I'm not using any of that stuff. But I'm pretty happy with the results at this point. What I plan to do next, well, I say next, to the main body, is isolate what I can of the firewall. Talking with the owner, we're going to try to save whatever part of that I can, and it may end up that I cut somewhere right above the torque box, come straight across, go up into the tunnel, come back down, and continue on across. I can't save the whole thing. We know the bottom half is no good, and I'm not going to fight with all of the torque box stuff just to save 3 inches of sheet metal. But surprisingly, the edges aren't bad. Even up here, this is not rotted out all the way across. It's in good shape. So, I mean, really surprised at that, considering that the cowl is literally gone in a variety of places. Over here, it did rust out underneath each one of these braces, and here on this edge, all rusted off, but this part, like this air box, that's still intact, so that's a good thing. I'm happy to have this part done. I will be doing some repair work to these panels where they had torched holes into the sides on the back side. I will be rebuilding this, making it solid again. Obviously, I have to touch up some of the weld holes that I had to drill, or the drill holes that I made to get those spot welds loose. Not a big deal. That can be welded up and smoothed, and it'll be fine. This apron, I am trying to save it as much as I can. Sorry, but I will probably cut off the whole top section and then take the piece of the other one and weld it on. At least that's the goal at this point. But yeah, I'm happy with where we're at. Well, that'll be it for this video. I hope you got some valuable information out of this. If nothing else, I hope you were entertained for the period of time of this video. I do want to thank my patrons who continue to support me. I thank them so much. They help me keep this channel going. And if you're interested in becoming a patron, there are links in the description below. Also links to Amazon and my other YouTube channel. So check that out as well. But if you would, leave a comment, leave a thumbs up. Let me know what you think about this video. I really do like the feedback. And that'll be it. So until next time, take care of yourselves. See you.